Uh,
Tom, play those nose trumpets for us.
no. The moment's been ruined.
You can't. I'm like start.
But. That's for you old kids.
Oh, that is, ladies and gentlemen.
Quick.
Hello, welcome to Delving in Deep. I know the episode title this time. It's done right. It's episode 14.
What what's that song?
The banana phone.
No, it's come on. There's no way you didn't play this video game.
Well, I might have played that video game, but you're assuming that your voice is a perfect representation of the song, so much so that it will recall.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
100%.
Let's see. Let's. You're typing. You're looking. You're gonna find. You don't even know the name of it. Are you trying to?
No, I know. I'm pulling up your stream because I was seeing if there's anybody here, but there's not.
John's here. John is here. What is this?
John can totally name that song.
Game Jockey's here. John's here. 1 second. Hey, Brandy, are you here? There we go. She'll be out in a moment. Look at that. No peer pressure at all. Hello everybody. Welcome. I'm Uncommon. That's the sound.
Oh wait, no, I don't.
Makes.
I don't say my name because I'm too cool.
And joining me here today is
Loud Music Man.
Tom, Mouth Music Man. Ba da ba ba da ba. Wah. Wah.
Oh no.
So
fine. Everything's fine. It's the Battle 1942 theme.
It's about.
Oh, I have no idea what that song was.
No,
it's not the ESPN theme.
Da da da, da 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 da.
What is that? Mega Man.
Get
that Mega Man out
Mega
here.
Man. It's Mega Plan. What is that? Where do I know that from? Because I know
Mega
that.
Man. Here's my Mega Plan.
Look,
Gotta run now. Gotta run now.
I only know that because of you.
Oh really? Oh,
Yes.
because I do love that song.
Oh man.
Battlefield 1942. Yeah, I haven't played that in a long time. Yeah, but still, I would be on my friends. I think maybe on Skype. I don't even know if Skype was around back then, and we would all be humming that song as we were loading up, playing on Wake Island. Oh yeah, here it is.
I'm playing it. Let's hear it. I didn't play this game. I get it. I can get why this gets stuck in a little child's head. I get it. I understand it.
It's such a beautiful song.
All right, let me do that before I get copyright striked. Game
Yeah, in like 2004. Awesome. You're not wrong.
There's so many fantastic games out there that weren't fantastic. Aren't fantastic anymore.
That one probably not, but like when it came to like online shooters, like it felt like the most like balanced game. Like I still look at that one and I still say that game balanced vehicles in an SPF 500 the best.
In sunscreen. Was that your first online shooters? Like I don't think I didn't get on the online shooters, online games for a while. No, console. It was console online for me. So I was playing Mech Warrior Assault or Mech Assault on the Xbox.
Is that yeah, that's a great game.
Oh, that was so good. That was my first like, hey, we have to buy cable internet so I can connect to Xbox Live and play this online game. That was absolutely the first time that happened. And after that, it was MMOs like Ultima Online and all those. So I didn't get into like that shooter scene too heavy.
Yeah. Like in 1942, like the vehicles were like good. They weren't like you didn't get in a vehicle and immediately die. And if like as like a player, like just not in a vehicle, you didn't like you saw a vehicle and you're like, fuck, don't want to deal with this. I'm going another way. but like you didn't just instantly die all the time to them.
Okay. Okay.
Now there's like fun camping and all that bullshit because nobody's figured that out yet. But like, oh man,
Oh,
there and
you mean how to stop a bullet when you come into existence? Not possible.
right, right. But like, and there was even like some maps that were um, like the Omaha Beach one. Oh, it was so
Okay.
good. It was completely imbalanced, and the Axis definitely won like 80% of the time. But it was still a fun map to play because you were on the Allied team and you were that 20% of the time. So good. All right.
No, no, that's awesome. And John's talking about Dust 514. He plays these games. If there's ever an option to run vehicles, that's just his thing. If you can get out for vehicles or assault rifle, it'll be vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
We used to use him as like he'd get the aircraft. He's the guy that gets the aircraft and he drops people off at a location and then leaves and comes back and picks you up.
Okay, yep.
Dedicated aircraft pilot. Actually, a game did that. An online game did that really well recently. It was Tom Clancy's Wildlands. Gave some pretty good drop in, drop out support for people who just solely wanted to run the aircraft.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I don't know if we played that, didn't we? We just never messed with vehicles more than like,
no.
Hey, jump out of the helicopter, let it crash on the other side of the road, and we're gonna assault here.
And then we're gonna sneak in.
Then we're gonna sneak in because AI is a thing we have to deal with. So yeah, let's see happenings this week. I got to play D&D and not be the DM yesterday. And let me tell you, I had an absolute blast.
And all the other players hated you.
Absolutely, they absolutely hated me. No, oh. I'm getting better at being a better player.
See, this is like one of those things that like one thing happens 10 years ago, but that one asshole friend doesn't let it go. I'm
Never.
that guy.
You're that guy. We can get an unbiased opinion when Game Jockey has a moment. Remember the question. You can ask him. You can get his honest opinion, maybe honest because I'm here. But his honest opinion on was Casey a team player? I think I do when I play those games. I do spotlight a little more than I like. I'm not 1/6 of the table.
Mm-hmm.
I like to like engage a lot, but I tried to pull back and be like a third of the interaction. I tried to just be a third of the voice. But that's cool because you get that practice in, and when you DM, you get to be interacting all the time and all the things. Right. But it was a lot of fun. Absolutely was. Let's see. John says PlanetSide 2 was great for that too, but I could never get a large enough group together. So that group you introduced me to, John, when we played PlanetSide 2, you introduced me to PlanetSide Express Delivery group. It was this crew of like 200 people. You can get like 20 online at a time. They ran those missions, and I just only one night. I only ever got one night of awesome. Well, I guess an awesome team play out of PlanetSide 2. I saw its full potential with like 20 dudes in coordinated squads, dropping smokes in the buildings, using scopes that could see through smoke. So you drop smoke everywhere. Everybody's got like 30 smoke canisters on them. They're just spraying the building with smoke. And then you walk in and you obliterate everybody because nobody can see but you. Planet Express. That was the clan. That were really cool. I occasionally get emails, emails that are messages from the Planet Express forums. They do announcements occasionally.
Forums.
I mean, that's before Discord.
So good.
And and sometimes, people still use these things. Sometimes forums is where it's at. Honestly, I like the idea of a thread.
I was popular on some forums back in the day.
What was your first forums?
I don't know, probably some Flash game on a website.
Oh man, I have an answer for this. Have we talked about my Dragon Ball Z role-playing forum?
Like a text-based Dragon Ball Z forum?
Yes, absolutely. What it was is a whole bunch of people role-playing Dragon Ball. We had some rules that determined like power levels, and administrators would update the power levels once a week, and that was your base power level to interact with the people. And we'd type like paragraphs, and then the other person would role play back paragraphs, and it would just be this back and forth. back in.
So it'd be consistent with the pacing of an episode. Go
Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-ba.
he, and then you would go, and I would go he.
Yeah, just about. Oh man, I got into that. I got into that hard. Like when they told me that like the quality of your work determined how much of a power level boost you got at the end. I was writing pages. I was such a nerdy little 13-year-old, just like, I'm gonna be full strong. I'm gonna unlock Super Than. So today, Delvin in Deep has some statistics and stuff, and some maps. And last time we talked about maybe actually let's go over to the stream, the page, episode 13. Boop, 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 boop. And I have this cool new device today we're gonna play with, and I'm gonna use it. I have this pin.
Geez.
I have this pin.
Oh, that's right.
And I have this drawing pad here, this tiny one, and we're gonna use it for things it shouldn't be used for a while, until we start to get used to what I actually should be using it for. Let me just move the mic a little bit. Oh, I have a glove. See this glove? This glove lets me rest my hand.
He's got a power glove.
It's like Nintendo's Power Glove. Lets me rest my hand on the tablet. I'm all decked out today. But
I feel like that's what the uncool kid in high school would wear.
oh, absolutely. I am the uncool kid right now. I'm gonna make this first button the left button so I can actually navigate this menu if I do it right. And oh, watch this. To turn it on, you have to actually push the pin cap and click it. So now I have drawing support and an undo button on the pad, and I should be able to. Can I click? Yeah, I can click in between these things. Circle. Oh, it's so good. Scroll down. I can scroll. I don't have a scroll. Can I scroll with the? This is what we're gonna do. This whole episode is me figuring out how to draw. Okay, I can kind of scroll with the pen. I can click.
See? Normal streamers have this figured out beforehand. Us, fuck that.
This was delivered today. I have played with it a little bit. Normal streamers, they don't bring you this excellent, high quality content. If you want normal, mundane content, go watch PewDiePie. That guy's got it going. Talking about role playing. Have you seen the Spurge? The Spurge, the rise, the surge of Grand Theft Auto 5 role-playing streams?
I have not seen
a single one of them. It is so good. And it's all the popular streamers getting into Grand Theft Auto 5 and being super serious about role-playing. I wanted to join a server and try this stuff out, and it had a 12-page application process that took me 30 minutes to finish. 30 minutes. Only the most high quality streams. Wow. Did that happen to PewDiePie?
Yes, it did.
What happened?
The guy said it while he was live streaming.
He was live streaming a mass shooting?
In New Zealand.
Wait, it was live streamed? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. He said subscribe to PewDiePie. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I have to. I was playing Minecraft with my 7-year-old daughter instead of keeping up with the news.
Oh yeah, that's right. You've been got. Oh yeah. So
I've been away.
So okay. That's what it took for me to do this. For Casey to allow me to do this is Casey had to go away and I had to sneakily go into the dock and change some things. And by change some things, I mean put some things in.
What have you changed?
I have not changed anything. I just put stuff on.
Put stuff on what?
On the episode 14.
Oh, okay. So I did see that. So I'm going to talk about episode 13 really quickly. Give us a quick review and practice with the pen. So we finally added in some of the islands. Some of these. We added in the islands before, right? So
yes, correct.
Hello from the. Let me kind of scroll up and refresh my own memory. The greater details, okay, this pen is cool. I should probably not be.
So those islands are from episode 11.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Episode 11, and then episode 12 was the other side. Episode 13 went into some more details about the new landmass in the middle. Because if you remember, the first the first campaign that the players have voted on was kind of an island naval adventure, and that's where this stuff is taking place. So, scrolling down at some of the notes, we have some zoom ins on some things. One of the big ones, and here we go, pen time, is this is a grand naval port. I'm using this to circle things. This is a large naval base. It has the entirety of land naval forces, deploys itself in and around this region to the north and the south, and Chromolome covers, protects this area, protects the trade, kind of keeps the peace to the best he can. Not a lot of conflict to the east and south. Between the east and the west, to the left and the right, because giant, powerful navy. Nobody else worries about a naval force so much, right? They're all focused in their own territory. We have Loros and Ectun over here, kind of battling it out. We have this territory.
Robad's in there too.
Robad's in there. Well, Robad's in there, and here, let me represent Robad. He's a skull, and he's not liking life, so I'm going to put a big X on him. Now, talking about conflict that Chromolome has to deal with, we have this wilderness defense island, which is let's go ahead and right here in the green circled there. This wilderness defense is kind of protecting the rest of the world from the encroaching creatures for Sandalis' territory. These islands at one point belonged to Chrolome. But because of the migrating beasts from Sandalis' territory into the islands, he's lost that territory, and he's now defending it. Last line of defense here is this little island that you can't see anymore because it's in red. Of course, Fortic, as with the last map, is dealing with the encroaching force along that line, and Chrolome has to deal with it along this line as well. And this isn't necessarily out of malice. Sandalis is just doing what Sandalis does, which is creating. We also talked about, let me scroll down. So that's the last bastion of hope. We talked about the trade routes. We talked about the naval base, the forest, the rainforest expansions. Harder to move into Fortic's territory because we discussed that as more of a dry, arid desert land. And we got ourselves a map of a portion of the naval base. And we said this episode, we're going to talk about heat maps and statistically interesting locations. So we're going to try to talk numbers and statistics.
Hey, we're
back. Today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we start with, we look at the stats, and then we look at the images, and we talk about effects on
sure.
the...
Sure. Not all the stats have images.
Okay, so
but
guide us through the script.
I forgot to mute my mic.
And I'll draw along so they understand.
Oh, Jesus. So this is when the case when Tom talks about overarching morals and ideas and things like that, and Casey draws along with them. So for those of you who do not live in my house, my power is based solely on Casey's influence in my life. And Casey was gone last week, so I became deathly ill. And so I am still recovering from that. So we'll see how long my voice lasts. So here are a couple of the things they're just talking about, when it comes to world, ideas about how things would just normally function, giving us a loose set of guidelines to make interactions between large figures make sense. Just to give sort of a general feeling of these countries. So we can just start from the top and go to the bottom.
Okay. Pull us into, tell me when to go to the maps once we get there.
Okay. Actually, I honestly think that these are a little bit separate. I mean, we can.
Okay. There's none that Well,
Not really.
like, do you
I
have a
didn't like
GBP
because
map or?
right, because I tried to take your advice and pull myself way back.
Okay.
So I just did a couple of the maps and then just sort of break down them into sort of just five separate categories of high, very high, high, medium, low, very low, sort of just to give us a basis of sort of what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Um, and so when it comes to population, of just like what are these countries sort of dealing with in terms of population, when I was looking at the maps and sort of looking over everything, going through some of the past stories, of
Right.
course, Loros would be the biggest country. Loros, is the most hands-on with their people. Their, potential migration for people who need help into Loros's domain. So I these are of course are just very rough numbers, so roughly like a third of the world,
Hmm.
just this massive population is in
It's a
Loris.
big area, big
Right. There's
territory.
tons of
It's
people.
and it's
Hmm.
this whole point of Loros is to seek out worship.
Hmm. Right. And it's the gods, it's Loris's main intent is to, get followers. Ektun is no slouch either.
Right.
Definitely doesn't come with as many followers, but comes in at the second largest country, enough to sort of give Loros a run for her money, and just like this constant power struggle between the two. Um, there's so yeah, so there's not sort of the same sort of call to the following of people, maybe migrating to the country or whatever, but through how whatever means, Loros is, or excuse me, Ektun, is no slouch when it comes to population.
Okay.
Uh, Krolom, being in the center of sort of the known world, um, is not a slouch either. Um, there's definitely, and this comes to um, uh, the sort of the points in sort of the big east and west sides of the short distance between the two land masses, how
Sure.
those are just the very densely populated city, because being that it's the shortest point, naturally most of the trade is going to go through there, right? Just like the invention of the Panama, or the invention of the Panama
The
Canal,
invention of
right?
the Panama. I mean, the invention
Yeah.
of the canal.
No, the creation of the Panama Canal, it becomes a very popular,
Sure.
you know sea route, because it's so much shorter, right? There's, if you can move things quickly from side to side, um so there's a heavy concentration and a lot of trade in those two sides of the world. And I also sort of um looked at how the land was originally laid out,
Okay.
from the map, and it kind of the map sort of gave me this feeling, from it, just how it randomly generated itself, because it generated itself um, on the with actually no cities on the right hand side or the east side of the country, which of course is a little bit extreme. But I thought that'd be an interesting dynamic, especially playing off of wealthier parts of the country, being so heavily involved in trade. Sometimes there's groups that uh, it ends a little bit more poorly for. So we'd sort of have this balance you could see, kind of written through Uncommon's writing. So you have, it's 18%, that's only a little bit less than Neptune,
Sure.
but 12% of it, two-thirds of it is on the west, and one-third of it's on the east.
So
So there's
the bigger population is closer to Ektun, Robad, and
correct,
Loros. Okay, because that
correct.
is the more. It looks to be the absolutely most populous side, and
Mhm.
I mean, which makes sense. Absolutely makes
Mhm.
sense because one half of the continent on the other side is growling creatures and dangerous forests.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yes, and so, um, and then you have Robat. Um, Robad, while they aren't, the strongest, um, the most fearful, there's a decent middle of the road population there, not, uh, enough so that they don't completely get steamrolled.
Sure.
But they also aren't, just because you have a lot of people doesn't mean it's a lot of, decent, military might. But also at the same time, it's that they have enough to be a they'd be a nuisance to take care of completely,
Sure.
right? So it's they sort of leave them be over there, and because they don't want to dedicate the military resources. Ektun and Loros won't, because then it would give the other side the advantage.
Hmm.
So then moving sort of onto the other side, the less populated side, Vortic, coming in above Inlo and Dominimo. Um,
Just by the
those were
nature there, he's like the last one left to have any kind of
right.
population.
Mm-hmm.
The other, I mean, the rest of them, De Minimo, by its nature, is a smaller island. It's
Mm-hmm.
harder to get to. The population,
Yeah, and I would think they're like, when it comes down to it, there may be, at times as many people in Dominimo's island as there are Fortix,
sure,
but it
sure,
would be through tourism,
temporary,
um, some sort of celebration. People are going there to party. Um, you know, uh, it would be the people who, it's like Las Vegas. The
sure.
people who naturally live there. The amount of people that come to that place vastly outnumber the people who live there. I don't know if that's a true statistic, but I just made it up right now. And of course, Inlo also, uh, um, has devout followers, but is perfectly fine with what he has, and you know, sometimes they make love and have more devout
Sometimes
followers.
they
But
make love.
yep, sometimes they make love.
So this,
Uh,
oh
mhm.
man, so it's interesting because we're taking a look at this map. I noticed that De Minimo's tourism is almost entirely only going to be easy access, like Fortic, Loros, and Krolom. That's it. That's it. There's no tourism coming from Sanalis's territory. Ektun is probably. I imagine Ektun more like a powerful North Korea. Robad probably holding on to as
they
much power as he can to
they
stay
can't even
fearful.
afford it.
They
But
can't even
yeah,
afford it.
and,
Yeah,
and we'll
fair.
get to some of just the
Yeah,
geographical
geographical.
location, um, and a little bit, because there was a couple of interesting things that sort of came up there, like that statement.
Sure.
Um, but GDP,
Okay. Do
sort
we
of
have a
just
map for this?
yes and no.
Okay.
This is one where, like, I was thinking about percentages, and like, I guess this comes down to more of just like a thinking idea, and it's easier um, to sort of relate it to the real world, so we have can bring in some real world context.
Sure.
Um, but also the math doesn't really make sense to do it as percentages, because in the real world there's 100 and something countries. Um, so when it comes down to it, sort of what I was thinking, um, is sort of the statistics right next to GDP are a rough estimation, not rough estimation. I essentially rounded. I didn't take any decimal points
Sure. Sure.
of the world's GDP in 2018. So you have U.S. at 23, China at 16, and then it falls off pretty quickly with Japan. I want to say,
Six
I don't
percent.
think they're 6 and 5%. I want to say they're 3 and 4. They might be 3 and 5.
Sure.
The UK is around there. It's just roughly, it falls off that quickly.
Right. It's good to
Um,
note that in our head, when we're talking about somebody that's got a 25%
right,
GDP, it's that's how it's related.
right. It's kind of, think of it as the United States and the world today. And so with all of the trade that's coming through Krillom's territory, of course, some of it's passing through. You have whatever
Did
services that get
real quick,
charged to move goods.
real quick. Did we lose the map, or is that only in? Did we not move it from?
The old map.
The new map. Where's that at? I'm trying to find.
The new map.
Is it only going to be from our more details page? Did we not ever? We never moved it to the locations page. So let's do that real
No,
quick. Um,
I have copies of it. If
it's fine. I mean,
you've
I do too.
drawn.
It
Okay.
doesn't. It doesn't. When I paste it, it won't paste with all the writing on it.
No.
Yeah, this is fantastic. All right. We got us off
Okay.
topic. I'm coming back to the
Yep.
episode. I'm just trying to give graphical representations.
Hmm. And so with that, so you sort of have, uh, uh, Krolome being sort of the juggernaut of this world, just based on their position in the world. The country's not tiny, but just through sheer of just how it was set up, Krolome's hand has to be in a lot of what is going on in the world,
Sure.
um, especially because of the West Island. you know Most of the island doesn't like each other, or most of the continent doesn't like each other. So trade is going to be flowing east and west more than it is north and south in both of these continents.
Okay.
And Krolome's right in the middle of that. Of course, you have Loros just from sheer size of population, almost kind of like China. They have just for when it comes to just size of workforce.
Right.
One of the ones that I was sort of um, uh, uh, sort of interesting stories that sort of came up with is, I have de minimo even higher than Ectune.
Okay.
Not by much, just like, you see it starts to trail off, Japan and Germany. Um, there's, but one of the things that, we were talking about is the wines or, alcohol or sort of like party-esque things from De Minimo's Island. Is uh, they are It's so highly mastered
Yeah.
in on De Minimo's Island that the extremely wealthy in the middle of Krolome's Island will settle for nothing less.
Sure.
And so you have,
A lot of
even
wealth coming
though,
down.
right, they either go there or they will purchase this wine at extremely ludicrous prices to show off their wealth, and or to consume because they enjoy it the most. One of the things I didn't talk about when it comes to population is the most interesting thing that I sort of was thinking about and kind of threw me for a loop when I was thinking about a lot of these statistics, because of course we're coming up to them soon when it comes to the GDP discussion,
Right.
is Santalus, right? Santalus, I sort of, as I was thinking about it more and more, I just would think of it's almost just like a vast rainforest. Like
Okay.
there's different things going on, but like in these giant cities of wood elves, they don't operate like the rest of the world does. Like they don't, they may come out and potentially interact with different populations, but when it comes to you know the population, like how many wood elves there's not many humans out there.
Right.
Nobody really knows, and it's not like they don't interact with the
There's
rest
no
of the
census
world.
happening here.
Right. There's no, so when it comes to the GDP, I did rank them lower because when you have a gross domestic product, a lot of what they would be doing wouldn't necessarily be, they're not like cutting down and
Importing,
selling their
exporting.
trees
There's
to
no
wood.
money
Right.
being circulated through, but they have their own.
Yeah.
They aren't a poor country. They
Right.
probably have their own methods of currency exchange, so it's fair to put them above people like Inlo
Right.
and Robad.
Hmm.
Okay.
And so yeah, so you have Fortic there as well, sort of just chilling out in the middle, and of course Robad and Inlo. Um, I put Robad above Inlo mainly just because they have a little bit more people. There's more going on in war times. It's always a little bit, there's things for people to do in wartime. Whereas Inlo, he's doing his own thing. He's saving his own butt, and he's fine doing what he is.
Sure.
Education. Now we just start getting into the high, mediums, and low. when it comes to this is I was thinking more of the general population of sort of what sort of institutional educational systems would they sort of have, and of course with Fortic being so much based in knowledge, of course very high. Um, I put Inlo as high as well. I thought that'd be because there's been sort of this connection between Fortic and Inlo where they don't necessarily see everything eye to eye, but
Okay.
there's a mutual respect for each other. You talked about that earlier,
Yep.
and so that's where I sort of I was thinking about where to put him, and I decided that maybe this is one of those reach categories for him where there's not a lot of them, but they are at least very well informed on uh, certain things. Potentially, we could discuss that whether it's
How do you
being what happened before in the real world or in the old world. They're they make sure that they don't lose their knowledge of why they're doing what they're doing throughout throughout time. It's very institutionalized on how they get um, you know, how they pass down from generation to generation. You had a question?
Yeah, yeah. How do we think? So, how do we fund his mega dungeon when he does not have a GDP?
Um, I mean,
A workforce, a collection of undead magic.
it could potentially people, not necessarily slavery, but if everybody's willing to fight for the same cause, you know, they're
Immortality is a cause you think people are.
yeah, it
Okay.
could be, they're willing to, you know, um, and it may not, this, everywhere else may have, like um different things that they spend their money on,
Sure.
like uh whereas, this could be their main um public works project almost to be, like Krolome has this vast network of roads. Well, Enlo doesn't need that as much, so whatever, their extra money that Krolome's spending on roads, he's spending on the dungeon.
Okay. Okay. I can get behind something like that. I'm gonna build a little
And
dungeon here.
then you just have Krolome, Loros, and Ectune, all sort of middle of the road. Sanilis, there's less structure. There's not going to be, as much. And then Robad, uh, there's not too much. And De Minimo, there's none
Sure.
to, they're having a good time. They're not worried about education.
All right. So let
Military
me let me let
power.
me let me come down. Let me
Yeah.
come down. Education.
Yep, yep, yep.
Um, I'm looking for pieces. Did we have a? We had a map on this, did we?
I don't
Conflict,
believe we did.
fertility, trade routes. Okay. Um, yeah, it's fair. I can see education routes kind of in the middle. Robad, de
Mhm.
minimo. Okay. Yep. I'm on board. I don't see any reason that this isn't. I mean, for regular viewers and ourselves, um, it's pretty obvious what's going on
Mhm.
here. But we talked about military power.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll take this one, and I want you to let me know if we're if
Okay.
I'm straying. And while I do this, can you drop in? So what I have maps. I'm noticing the map I have, that the
Mhm.
borders map and the wealth
Mhm.
map. I remember you added a bunch of islands, so I don't have a brand new map, a borders map with
That's
all the
right.
islands, and I could use that to talk about it. So if you can drop one of them
Boy,
into
hopefully
the
I do.
episode, oh, that would be a shame. We did get new maps, by the way. So we added some of these land masses. We talked about the islands. When we zoom out, we now have a complete picture of kind of what the campaign's going to look like with the surrounding islands, and we'll talk about that a bit.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because that happened since my realization. But continue.
yeah, absolutely. So as far as military might, the biggest powers are obviously going to be Loros and Neptune. They're in this constant war, and I'm going to actually capture my little art and bring it down so I can use it to talk over here. Bring it down and paste. Oh, that's beautiful. I think we should just go with my map. So Yeah, stop that.
I mean,
There we
you
go.
feel free.
Yeah, right. All this work. So we obviously have these two huge military powers, and
Mhm.
there's great conflict here. They're spending a lot of their money, um, funding this fight, and for them, this is the battle of good and evil. Uh,
Mhm.
Let me go ahead and I'm just trying to get the right colors here working. There we go. We can highlight. Can we highlight black? Oh, that you can't really highlight black. Normal highlighters, by the way. Normal highlighters don't write over things. So, Ectune, that writes over. That writes over. All right, fuck it. We're gonna use pen. We're learning. We're learning, ladies and gentlemen. So what we have here is for those in the past, Ectune and Laura is very very high conflict there. They're fighting all the time, right? So we got big old
Oh, that's
Ectune.
right.
He's got some horns. We've done this drawing before, right? He's fighting his good fight. Maybe a little red here, bring him in. We got Loros on the other side, a little more angelic, trying to fight this fight. Maybe a shield. Yeah, make Loros a shield. Get her nice yellow in here. It's a big old angel wings. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Angel wings that look like capes, double capes.
Double capes.
Double capes, epic battle.
Oh boy.
And this is
Uh-oh.
this is taking the test of this is time. This has gone on for ages. The clock is ticking. Their forces, I wouldn't say their forces running weary because you're going to be constantly reinvesting in stronger and stronger military power, doing more with less. Artillery, great magics. It's happening, and it's this big dead zone in the border here between the two of them. On that same note, but without the high level investment that comes with war, Krolom, he's covering the waters. He's got the largest naval fleet.
Where do you want the map right on it or
No,
in
in the locations
in
tab. I'll grab it when it comes up. Um, he's got a nice little naval fleet. I'm gonna draw a little boat here.
dropping it in
He's got a is that a sailboat?
flip.
Now it's a naval sailboat because it's got more than one sail.
And that's how you tell the difference. Is that
It
like
is.
a
That's a scientific term. Multiple sails. We draw some masts here, and
it's like AWOL Nation? It has like the
as the what?
has like the best military.
It does, and this is freedom. He's keeping the peace for the trade route. He's one of the people who is his fundamental ideal extends to others and not just his own nation. So he's got some investment in the safety and security of others. We go to Inlo. Now Inlo is his military power is almost all contained in that dungeon, right? So we talk a little bit about Inlo's underground fortress. This little
And his masterful assassins.
and masterful assassins. He's all, I mean, not just assassins. These are like the Templars, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking
Like they are good enough where the three nations behind or above them know they exist, but aren't able to. They can hinder them, but they aren't able to downright stop them.
and they don't necessarily disagree with them because this is
Mhm.
part of that arcane
True.
pack.
True.
And
I guess there's really only one above them that disagrees with them.
which one was that again?
Cruello disagrees.
Prolome, right, freedom and all. So what we have here, as the art depicts, is a nice large underground facility and dungeon. Big dragon on the first floor. It continues to an unknown depth, and a lot of his military might is in these two things. So we talked about. Actually, let's do a nice knight face, right? I guess we'll make a big helmet. He's got a visor in the middle. Then he's a stick figure here with big shields.
Here, while you're doing this, I'm just going to use the restroom
No,
real quick and
please
refill
do.
my water, and I'm probably going to have to do that like once or twice more times in this lovely show.
You take care of yourself, buddy. I'm a huge fan of you coming out of this on top. There we go. We are loving this pen, ladies and gentlemen. No, wait. We gotta do the stone. Nice stone highlights here. and we have Enlo, military might. You can kind of see, I kind of see who I'm considering the big powers here. But we're looking over at the chart. Fortic. So Fortic is knowledge. So Fortic has military might that's going to come from books. It's going to come from magical sources in this, collection of mystical energies. A defense, which is probably in his tall towers. He's not quite like Inlo, where he's keeping large dungeons underground, but this is a guy who's protecting knowledge. He's doing this in big castles, behind mountains, more of a defense. This guy's concerned with keeping, not I don't say keeping knowledge from other people, because he's also like Krolom in the fact that he shares knowledge. He shares knowledge with others. But you have to be the right kind of people. It's not freely given, right? Knowledge in the wrong hands,
Correct.
dangerous. We
Yes.
get to Santalis now. When we say Fortix about defense, Santalis is just a natural force. There's not a lot of military power. There's power.
Right.
It's a scary place to be, but the Wood Elves are safe. No one's wandering into Santalis' territory trying to steal from the Wood
Right.
Elves. There's T-Rexes in there, and nobody wants to run into a T-Rex.
Right.
There's large, vast-toothed creatures, and kind of this natural. What's it called when two things live in harmony with each other?
Synergy.
Synergy. Oh yeah, the synergy.
No, it is synergy, but they're called parasites are the opposite. Symbiosis.
Symbiosis sounds. You're getting there.
No, it's not. It's there's a fish that there's a something underwater that eats out its tongue, and then continues to chew its food for it, because the fish will eat food that's too big for the the thing that eats out its tongue,
Right.
and then the fish gets its food chewed up anyway.
So so essentially, symbiosis. They live in harmony with each other. Harmony is a good word for it. So they don't have to worry so much about military. The creatures scare everybody away. People leave Santalis alone, except for, and we talked a little bit about this, except for Kroloms.
Oh yeah, okay.
Kroloms, big game hunters.
Yeah,
You have
they're called symbiotic relationships.
symbiotic relationships. I like it.
Mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism.
Parasitism.
Mhm.
All right.
I looked that up. For
Military
those of you
power. Go ahead.
Right.
Oh, I skipped over Robad. Robad is that sad North Korea style
Right.
relationship here. Not a lot of money.
Right.
Not a lot of power, but they want it, and what they have, they've seized through fear.
Right. But I kind of want to pull back a little bit from like a totally useless country. But the reason he looks so useless is because he's surrounded by
Big powers.
the like the top three military mites in the world, and he wants to be one of those military mites, but he, there's just
There's
he
no
doesn't
room
have
and
it.
there's no room for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's being pushed from all sides. Now, one of them's not necessarily as actively threatening like Krolom, but that is red, yellow, blue of hell when you're just trying to eke out when your desire
he's
is
getting
power.
screwed by primary.
I love power, but man, if I can't have it. Yeah, we're gonna apply forces in all directions on this sad little guy. We've got colors to line those up. This is good. I'm really happy with my art so far. I think we're going a long way in the production quality of this episode. We've kind of given ourselves. Look at that. Come on, Tom. That's art.
Hey everybody, welcome to Uncommon Draws.
Uncommon draws. But de minimo. Minimo, this guy, doesn't need military power because
No.
he's got. I'm gonna make it. This is what am I drawing here, Tom?
Um, alcohol, booze,
Alcohol, booze, partying, drugs, um, and
right?
enough people enjoy what he's got to offer. That why destroy it? Why go destroy a peaceful country who offers us party time? They're not a
Right.
threat militaristically. Their land isn't in a strategic position. Nobody is.
Mhm.
No, there's no conflict, between Loros and Inlo that would facilitate a need to seize this island. Um, he's having so much fun um, down here. No military might necessary. By the way, if you don't know, I'm fantastic at Pictionary. I'm the best. Um, simple, easy drawings with a little bit of creativity. You tell me anywhere on this map, anywhere in this art, is there anything that doesn't make sense? What's that? Oh, that's a devil fighting an angel. Cool. Oh, that's a tower with books in it. This must be a tower library, a knowledge library. Oh, is that a dungeon? You could tell because there's grass on the top level and there's dirt below and ladders going down. Yeah. I might not be fine tooth artist here, but we got ourselves some understandable, and this is going in the book. Like when we PDF, I'm the artist, guys. That's it. We ain't hiring nobody. That's expensive. All the art in our PDF and our final PDF of this comes from this guy. So military power. I like how that's kind of mapped out. That's good. We have a couple more, and infrastructure was one. Now, we saw the differences between education, military power, GDP, population. They kind of make sense what the stories we're building on. I think one of the things that's helping me do this, and when you're world building yourself,
is the drawings.
Well, yeah, absolutely the art. Stick with the art. But on top of this, when you're doing your own world building, it's helpful. What we're doing here is not only giving ourselves numbers and statistics and data to work with, but we're giving ourselves multiple ways to express the personality of each of our areas. And not only, hey, and now I need to know what the military power is, but when I'm trying to come up with something on the fly, when I'm trying to invent a reason why something's happening or existing, I have developed such a self-understanding of these countries. I now know these countries' motivations, their fears, their powers, and I've repeated it so often. It's forming itself in my memory that I'm going to be better at what's the word when you're acting? Whose line is it anyway? Improv.
Improv, yes.
How are we better at improving here?
And that's one of the things that seems counterintuitive at the time, but if you'll listen to certain people talk about it. I think the last guy that I heard talk about it was, I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show before, but he was one of the designers for Magic the Gathering. He talks about how when you restrict possibilities, it makes you more creative because human nature, if we have
too many choices.
If we have a problem in front of us and we know a way to already solve it, we're going to go back there.
Right.
Because we're that creature of habit. We go, okay, we have these things. Okay, I know how to solve this problem. Let me go back to this. Where if you shut down some of those pathways and force yourself to think, that's when you can become creative because you don't have already made available options to you. So we're sort of shutting down some of those options in a way so we don't end up going down, certain pathways. That doesn't restrict our creativity. It sort of points us in a direction, but outside that door is a big wild field that our imaginations can play.
That's good. I like it. Could have said it better. Didn't say it better. So absolutely. And so this is the kind of thing you should be doing. We're not digging down into, which generals are running which battalions and their chain of command and their rank structures. That's all fun and cool. And maybe that'll help you answer specific questions, but this is the kind of thing that makes a game run smoother.
Yeah. Or maybe it will be needed down the line if the players happen upon that.
Right.
But that's definitely something that's never needed now. And that's coming from me. And that's how you know that it's never needed.
It's never needed. because Tom here, we've grown together, Tom. We're growing. We are. Look at this. We're learning, and that's been a fun little exercise. The beer needs a
Excuse
foam,
me.
a white foam at the top. All right. So infrastructure. Let me
Yep.
go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, this one I don't think we really need to touch on too much. I
Okay.
mean, Kurlome, center of trade, is going to have you don't have um, um, a large amount of trade and without the institutions to support them, right?
Right.
You'll need all the roads, you'll need potentially even the courts, the everything like that. So there's definitely, when it comes to those those, those bureaucratic systems, Kurlome's definitely on top. Fortic with all their knowledge is would be right behind them. Then you have the couple in the middle. Um,
As the nature of
Loros
being
got to,
large, powerful.
yeah. Inlo with the his far-reaching powers to try to pick off. You need to have some sort of way to to get information from one place to the other. Yada yada yada. De Minimo, they at least in some ways have set up trade routes, have the wineries, have a little bit, whereas Robad and Santalis, they don't have as much.
Sure.
Santalis, because it's all nature. They don't. It's not, maybe they don't want you, but they don't care enough to make it easier for you to like get to them. Like, that's not their problem. If you want to go to them, sure, go to them, but they're not going to build a road for you.
So
Um, mhm.
I wanna take a moment and ask about our boy Robad.
Okay.
We've been pooing on him as an unfortunate god who all his ambitions are greatly and directly hindered by everyone around him and the situation he was placed in.
Mhm.
What's this guy good at?
That's a good question. Right, because you need to be good at something, or else otherwise you wouldn't exist. Um,
And he
so
might be on the verge of not existing, but he should
true.
have a strength for us to play on.
Right. And I sort of, what I was sort of thinking about was um, the um, their guerrilla tactics, um, and their small numbers
Okay.
would be enough to sustain them and keep them alive, to sort of to to steal away that greedy caravan who thought that they could get by without paying for the extra guards. Or Senzaloros's country is so big, you know take uh raiding some farms, stealing food to take back to them. So it's an annoyance to Loros, but the pressure from Ectoon's too great. That's sort of what I was playing with, but that is one of the things that is, and actually funny enough that you bring it up in infrastructure. I wasn't exact like, this is the one I felt the most easy about placing him this low on. Um, it was one of the things that I was thinking about. I was thinking about there might not, and it actually shows in the wealth map, the average wealth map. There's the western part, or excuse me, the eastern part of Robad's country
Right.
is doing as fine as the rest of Loros's and Ectoons and Vortex. Their best is doing as well as everybody else's, but their western part that is constantly known to be a battlefield for Ectoon and Loros has been destroyed. um and so that's one of the things where I was sort of weighing things in different respects, but that's sort of how I was playing with it.
Okay.
Is that a monkey?
That's
What is
that
that?
is a gorilla. and that is
Okay.
tactics.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait, do gorillas
Um,
not have tails? Did I screw that up?
I don't think they do. But at least they have stubby ones. But yeah, so that's sort of in my mind.
Okay.
Um, I can't. I will say, out of all of the statistics and sort of gathering of these overarching political stories, these were definitely the most the one that I was the least about.
Okay.
So I
All
don't
right.
know if we will eventually, when we're figuring out more stuff, maybe we, you know, maybe the since they're so good at scavenging, they're very good relic hunters
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. Or something of the sort. Um,
Survival,
or yeah,
hardship enduring.
yeah,
Maybe they're up
maybe
top in
they're
the islands.
yeah they can they're some of the few that they go to the uh, Santalus's rainforest and have better success than everybody else.
Right. I could see that.
So, mhm, yeah.
Um, we're
And then
good.
yeah, and then for tourism, I mean, de minimis,
Yeah. Right.
Crolone because people flock there for freedom. Loros because people um, go there to maybe they've been burned by other gods or what have you, so they flock to Loros. Fortic for knowledge, and then the rest of them, there's not really a reason to go.
Right. I mean, we
Yeah.
really the only one worthy talking about here is de minimis. Krolone, Loris, and Fortic are almost self-explanatory. We're dealing with large, prosperous countries, but there's also an uneasy standstill of war here. Um, Krolone makes sense as just kind of a place to go, and the rest are right. Yeah, you're not going over into Sentinel's territory. It's dangerous. Inlo is dangerous. Robad is dangerous. I mean, this is keep saying dangerous over and over again, and just the nature of between Loros big country, Ectun big country, but the values and principles we have in Loros' territory versus Ectun, they answer those questions for us. But first and foremost, de minimis is just going to separate itself from the rest. All right, so talking about that, we're gonna take a moment and take a look at the maps we have. We talked a little bit about GDP. Now we have an average wealth map. We talked about most of this, so I'm not going to get into too much detail. But you can kind of see that there's no borders here, and we more base this around almost pathways and transportation. The biggest of which being Krolome in the blue. It's actually its own color, unique to this. That passed higher than green because this is all trade. This is all trade routes up and down. We have Robad, which exists in the red. Just again, the nature of the country stuck between war, and it even breaks into. And this section here is the territory of the territory line between Ectun and Loros. You can kind of see it's a war zone. This is where the conflict happens. Not a lot goes on there. But all the green and the orange, they exist near the water. They exist along, rivers and pathways, or in Ectun's case, right in the center, commerce, cities, population centers. If I go to, we have a population one, right? Or, no, we don't have population. Okay. Take a look at Sandal. It's also a unique color in that wealth isn't a measurement. Tom, you had something? You're muted. You're muted, Tom.
Thank you. Sorry, I blew my nose and
No, please.
but so that
You're breaking up. You're breaking up. Maybe move mic closer.
oh no, it tells me I'm sick. How, is it better? Hello.
Yep, you're good. Yep.
I'm super sexy sounding.
Hmm.
The way it just randomly generated itself, that middle of Ectoon, it's essentially just one big hill. So like it's not a mountain, but it's just like as you get to the center of Ectoon's country, it just gets, you know, higher and higher up. And so I sort of thought like that would be, I didn't put capitals yet on the map, but it would just make sense that, you know, the capital is on sort of the top of that hill looking over everything. And then of course all of the prosperity comes with that.
I have this nice image of this city, this great walled city,
Mhm.
you know, sitting on the top of a hill, you know, looking out at all the, you know, territory and, you know, smaller cities
Mhm.
around it, you know, looking down on the people. Kind of a nice um, uh, echoing, if you will, of maybe Neptune's philosophy of power and war.
Mhm.
You know, the big capitals here inside this city. That might be a cool thing to explore. Roads going down. Let's see. Further looking at the map, most of Krolom's yellow or orange. Minimo, again, prosperous. We can see that the green is centered around, you know, water. Not only
Mhm.
do you have fresh water, but not only do you have salt water, but also freshwater vacationing spots. Inlo, I mean, most Inlo and Fortic sits in the medium. I would say yellow, orange, kind of this medium territory. Yellow
Yep.
being a little more prosperous, orange close to the red you get um, loses some value. But you can really see highlights here. Colombe's intense focus in this region as a blue right into yellow. There's no green there.
Mhm.
It's all here. Um, okay, I don't want to spend too much time unless you have any other
No.
highlights here.
The only other thing is that I thought, and I kind of chuckled to myself, is I made that little island between Dominimo and Fortic uh, less prosperous. I made it orange, and I kind of just thought that as like the party foul island. Like, you know, if someone like messes up on the main island, they're just like, you go over there.
And that's still de minimis territory.
Yeah, I that was more of a little joke between myself, but
Hey,
I kept it in there.
if they ever randomly stop at an island, it'll be a bunch of
Yeah,
like Debbie Downers.
yeah, it'll be like somebody who like spilled a whole bunch of the really good wine. And so either who knows, like maybe it's like a prison, but it's like de minimo's prison where it's just like a
Bad
resort
alcohol.
island.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, it's not really all that
Okay,
bad.
we'll flush that out. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Conflict hotspots.
Mhm.
Almost. So you can see
Excuse
here.
me.
You're excused. Real easy, real quick to look at. Not a lot highlighted here, and we're talking,
Mhm.
conflicts between nations. Territory between Ectoon and Loros is a no-brainer. The borders
Mhm.
between Robad and Ectoon is something else to talk
Yeah,
about.
and that's sort of touching on that idea, sort of pillaging that Robad's doing. Um, so sort of like those out close to Robad's borders, you know, it's a little bit more dangerous to live. There's more raiding going on there. The goblins come out and go dee, 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 and you know snatch your jewels. Why it's a little bit thicker over near the right to the east of Robad is that's where Ectoon and Krolone meet on land. And so there's a lot of trade that's going on there, and so there's a little bit more um, uh, you know, conflict happening there, but which makes it, you know, slightly interesting for Ectoon because, you know, all of his forces need to be more towards the west of his empire because that's the constant conflict spot. But over on this east side, you know, there's also there's an annoyance happening that, you know,
Sure.
he has to deal with.
Right. Maybe a little bit
Um,
of little bit of action from Loros trying to
mhm,
disrupt trade. Okay.
mhm.
And I would say Loros and Corone have such a large territory; it's impossible to do the same on the other
Right.
side.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
let's see. The other conflict we have here is the islands from Santalus that we talked about is a migration. This is
mhm,
conflict here, mostly between Krolome on these islands here, trying to keep back. Apparently, I mean, just keep back and protect his
mhm,
territory and the rest of the territory from this. This is already lost. There's no reclaiming the large creatures in this island. It's too much. But he
mhm.
can try
And
to limit its advance.
Yeah. And the sort of the other thing that it's be a little bit more apparent on the trade routes map, but sort of that would be another route for Ectoon if they take their ships and bring them down. But like it is a possibility. But I was when it comes to just like these large creatures, they may just destroy a ship. So it's Ectoon's kind of in a rough spot when it comes that way, which I think will sort of be an interesting, because we talked about the Ham brothers,
Right.
That could be sort of, um, an interesting development, all of that together.
Okay. Yeah, we did, and that they do have some interactions between themselves.
Mhm.
Um, what you're seeing over here on the other side, as I
Mhm.
get all the right colors down, is is the problem here between Sandless, Fortic, and Krolom. So we talked about the rampant growth between the forest of Sandlist and the creatures, and all of it getting really out of control. So
Mhm.
there's two borders here, right here for
Yeah.
Krolom and right here for Fortic. The rest of this kind of being mountainous territory. That's
Right, and
harder to break
that's
through.
oh my god, we are. Why are we always on the same page? But yeah, so that's why it's more mountainous, especially with Fortix country being a little bit more desertish.
Right.
It has an easier time spreading through the floodplains than life doesn't have as easy as a time of going over Fortix, most of Fortix border. Um, but yeah, so that's why those are those two conflict hotspots.
We got ourselves a nice little yellow wizard hat, and his method of holding it back is probably probably some magic missiles. All right, let's get the magic colors going. What's a good magic missile color, Tom?
I don't know.
Blue,
I just always
purple.
thought they were white.
They're actually whatever shape you want them to be.
Really?
Whatever shape and design. Yep, they could be flying dicks
Okay.
if you really wanted them to be,
Why are we always on the same page?
which is almost what I drew here. Um, so
What is
yeah,
that? A scimitar? Like
scimitar. Uh, all right. Next up, land fertility. So this is essentially places of high fertility and growth, where you're going to see what like farmland. Like why is Santalus white?
because nobody knows. This is one of the things that there's not enough data on. It's or is maybe it's not even really needed.
Well, do we
Um,
know? I mean, I for me, and I'm just gonna throw a
uh
suggestion out here. This is blue. For
It
me,
could
this
be,
is
yeah,
jungle. I mean, because
yeah.
we get to know. We get to know. Nobody else gets to know. Um,
I sort of drew these like a school map.
okay. What people would know and what they
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But yeah, no, there's definitely when it comes to that. Correct. Yeah. And I sort of thought about like it's not saying that like um other areas you couldn't grow food in, but sort of how I thought about it is like where would you're in a video game would you get a bonus production to food?
Sure.
And so that's why of course Laros being massive, I was kind of thinking like the great plains like out in the Midwest.
Right.
There's that area. So Laros, there's a ton of food to feed all the people in. Um, De Minimo, you have a lot of the spots for wineries. Whereas Actune and Krolome, they have some area, but it might be a little bit harder for them to get food than let's say like Loros would it with the same amount of people,
Mm-hmm.
just because there's not as much space. When you have Fortic and Robad, Fortic's a little bit better off because he has those big rivers. Robad sort of just has like that one river, which is sort of why that side of the country does a little bit better because they are able to produce a little bit of food. And then you just sort of have that southern tip of Inlo that is so that self-sustaining as well. But as you can sort of see, that other side of Krolom's territory, there really isn't much. They can grow food, but not in the same ways that the west side can, which is one of their reasons for population difference.
So one of the things we also have here, we kind of look at if we compare this to the conflict map, Ectoon's got a vested interest in protecting this border a lot more because of the
yes, that was the other thing.
because of the food. It's right here. So this is a lot of focus of military power is going to be there, and that might be why he has such trouble securing trade routes. Because if Loros pushes just a little deeper, she's threatening the livelihood of the nation. If this is where the most fertile land is, I like it. Also, de minimis grapes. That's what that is.
Yep, I could tell those are nice grapevines.
Thank you. I told you I'm fantastic at Pictionary. Hey, let's draw all that arrow right there. It's a bad arrow. Let's do it again. Whoop. I'm curving it way too soon. There we go. Boop. That's way too close. It's almost assaulting the grapes. There we go. All right, land fertility. Trade routes. This is good. I want to see what we got here. We have lots of squigglies.
So many squigglies. Okay. So, when it comes to, sorry, excuse me, the biggest part is you have, of course, the back and forth between the two continents. And a lot of the trade goes to there.
Right.
You have, Fortic, Ectoon, Loros from that, the center capital area, all go through that area. That's the easiest way for them to trade. So that's why you have so much wealth there. This
is a hub. Nobody's trading necessarily with each other. They're trading through Krolom. He's the market board almost entirely, except for this one line I see between Loros and Enlo.
So there's a line between Loros and Fortic. Like there is a potential pathway that that isn't as constricted by anything. But what you have, I sort of then was showing through the arrow coming down from Ectoon is Ectoon the only way to sort of slide through there and potential, like he doesn't have a way to get past those islands unless maybe he would go all the way around. Through that.
Interesting. Actually, taking a look at this, Ectoon's trade route and Loros's trade route are kind of protected. There is no border for Loros that gets in the way of Ectoon's path here. And there is same likewise. Loros has access to the ports of Krolom without entering any water dominated by Ectoon. Not that either one of them have huge naval forces, but I kind of like. But
it's not really an option. Yeah.
Right, and we have a little bit of Fortic and I see a little bit of Fortic and Enlo trade happening.
Yeah, and of course these aren't absolutely every single trade route that happens. There's just major ones focusing on, but and I did kind of design this in a way is that there is the mountain range between Enlo and Fortic, and that is the largest mountains in the world are in that mountain range.
There's this mountain pass right here.
Right. There's a small little pass, and that's sort of how Fortic and Enlo, the major trade routes that go, of course, it's nowhere near as big as, what Krolom has, but there's trade that goes.
I mean, you see it coming from Loros, coming from Fortic. There's a little bit of a port there. And we talked about the relationship chart, and I went back to it and took a look at it again. Fortic and Enlo have that intellectual companionship. So probably some agreements here, because otherwise Enlo is probably going to have a tough enough time getting out and establishing his own trade routes to Krolom. Okay. All right, I like it. Let me click this pin away because I think we're reaching a really good point here. Today, so far, today we talked about kind of these heat maps. And we pointed out some interesting interactions between countries, some of their important statistics, things we can pull upon when we're running our game. And this was a lot of fantastic work here last week, Tom. Very good job.
Yeah, this is so. For those of you who have been following along, I mentioned a couple of times that I could not change the landmass of the maps. That is a lie, as you can see by the fact that the islands or the continents look a little bit different, and there's now islands. Maybe during my week of freedom, I may have discovered the
Oh.
option that I completely grazed over multiple times, and I got the joy of doing it twice because after I did it one of the times, the script froze on the site, and I didn't save because I was an idiot, and so then I had to redo everything.
So where did you drop that map? So I can
Where did I drop that?
the updated borders map
And template.
template. Okay, perfect. We're going to copy and paste. So taking a look real quick at template, and we're going to call this just world map. Move it right to the top of this list. It's the most important thing we have.
World map in the middle of the street.
This is the latest product. This is it. We've rewritten our map entirely. We've gotten our islands on it. So for those watching at home, for those who will be playing in the game, this is the world as you know it. This is the territory of each of these gods. These are the islands that you'll be interfacing with. I like we finally got some good islands on the actual map, and we're moving forward at a pretty high speed. Tom, after getting into some of the details, do you think it's time to try to start building a campaign?
Oh, I think it's time, baby.
It's time. We've been doing I wouldn't call this a campaign. This is the
We've created a rule.
A what?
A rule set for our world.
Okay, a foundation. And when I say campaign, yeah. I mean it's time to get into the sirens, the sirens. What do we call it? Sirens call. Sirens.
The sirens call.
The sirens call. It's time to get into the sirens call, and that's what we're gonna do.
One of like the only decently named campaigns.
The start of the sirens call, and the start doesn't mean the start of the campaign or session 0. It's going to mean outlining, or really, this is the next outline. We're going to sit down. We're going to outline the outline. We'll call it the outline. We're going to outline the way forward for developing this campaign.
Okay.
I don't think if we can handle it, I don't think there's going to be anything here that is spoiler. We could talk about how best to go about this. I'm going to dive into some of my campaign books. I have a couple because I do love using pre-made source material to run my stuff. So we'll dive in and we'll figure out what this is going to be. We'll even have a new tab here because I think that's the best way to go. We're going to just call it Sirens Call. Or the Sirens Call. I'm maybe getting ahead of myself into the next episode, but the Sirens Call, we're going to start building that. We're going to start building that with you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. I'm going to start building that with you and Tom. Tom gets to come too.
Unless I die.
Unless he dies. Which hopefully doesn't happen because this is a mild cold and he is not such a weak human. I don't make friends with weak humans. That's probably not true.
It's not even. It's stupid because it's not even the same one. I've had 2 back-to-backs. I thought my girlfriend had the same disease that I had, and it was not true.
So you both got unique flus, and you got yours out of the way with a little bit of overlap with the new one.
Yeah, and with hers, because I was all like, "Hey, babe, why don't you lay some slappy kisses on me?"
Because you're both sick. Yeah, no need to worry about it.
Yeah. I thought we were both sick with the same sick, but nope.
You mutated it, Tom. You might be starting super flu. You've combined double flu. That's all you.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Planet of the Apes starts
famous.
Now. Famous.
Oh, yes. You know Planet of the Apes. You know why the apes won?
Why?
Their guerrilla tactics.
Womp womp womp. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Uncommon.
And I'm that other dude.
He's the other dude, and this has been Delvin in Deep. episode 14, where we talked about lots of stuff and numbers, and you guys have been fantastic. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific or 9 p.m. Eastern. We do it just about every week. We have about 8 more episodes before we go on a pretty big hiatus. And when we come back, we'll be doing we'll be running a game. We'll be running the game. I'm going to hit the ending button. See you guys next week. It's over.